This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. Well, speaking of Sam Alito, he's been busy. There's a new decision that comes out that will change the face of South Carolina politics for ages, and it's effectively the bleaching out of African-American voters in one of the congressional districts, and it's been approved by a 6-3 vote of the Supreme Court led by Justice Alito. Let me tell you what happened, and let me tell you what's going to happen going forward based on this U.S. Supreme Court decision. Basically, they never see race as the predicate for redistricting, even when it's obvious that legislators, not for partisan reasons, not because they're Republicans and they want to make more Republican districts, but because they want Black people to be disenfranchised. That's what the trial court in South Carolina federal said after hearing empirical evidence in the case, Alexander versus the South Carolina state chapter of the NAACP. That's what a 3-judge unanimous panel of the South Carolina Federal District Court, of all places, also said that the reason that the state house had removed 62% of African-American voters from the 1st district and sent them off to the 6th district, basically creating almost like a ghetto in the 6th district by sending Black voters to where Senator Clyburn already had an overwhelming majority. So they just took all the Black voters and sent them to the 6th and freed up the 1st for white people. That's why Nancy Mace in the 1st district got a 14-point advantage and when she won in the last election. They basically made the 1st a white Republican stronghold by taking 62% of the Black voters out and sending them off to Clyburn's 6th district. Sound bad? The district court thought so. The appellate court thought so. But you know who doesn't think so? Sam Alito. He actually created a new burden on plaintiffs that will now change the face of maps and the Voting Rights Act and redistricting going forward. And he was joined by the usual suspects: Chief Justice Roberts, Amy Coney Barrett, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh. 6-3 against Kagan, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and Sotomayor. And that's the way things are going to be for a long time unless the Democrats win in November and are able to change the face of that Supreme Court. Now, it didn't affect unfortunately, it doesn't affect what's going on in November. So I want to manage expectations here. It took the United States Supreme Court so long to issue their ruling, sort of in the last month of the term, when they heard this case over a year ago, really towards the end of the last term, that the maps were already set. These racist maps were already used in 2023 and will be used in the November election in 2024. But now there's the new, as I mentioned before, now there's a new burden or hurdle that plaintiffs have to face or satisfy, according to Sam Alito, picking this out of his backside, out of his rear end, because it's nowhere in constitutional precedent. And that is, if you're going to accuse, or let me do it the other way, all actions of a state house must be presumed to be not racist, even in the Deep South. That they did it for partisan reasons, if they say that out loud, and that's enough. And to overcome that, it's a very strong presumption that what the legislators are doing, mainly white, is not racist, it's partisan. And if it's racist, if it's partisan, not racist, it doesn't violate the Voting Rights Act. Particularly, this is what Justice Alito said. Having come up with a new legal framework. But let me tell you what that framework is so we understand it. The proper response to this, this is from Alito. When a federal court finds, from his opinion, that race drove a legislature's redistricting decisions, it is declaring that the legislature engaged in offensive and demeaning conduct that bears an uncomfortable resemblance to political apartheid. We should not be quick to hurl such accusations as at the political branches. Right? And then Chief Justice Roberts and the others said the court has no power in these types of cases. Oh, suddenly the court is powerless when to address racism and violations of the Voting Rights Act. They go on in the dissent written by or a concurring opinion written by Clarence Thomas, of all people. He said he would have gone further and get out of the business of assessing claims of racial gerrymandering altogether. The court has no power to decide these types of claims. Drawing political districts is a task for politicians, not federal judges. There's no judicially manageable standards for resolving claims about districting, and regardless, the Constitution commits those issues to the political branch. Yes, it's unseemly for the United States Supreme Court to step in and enforce the Voting Rights Act, which has been found to be constitutional, only when it's not in their favor. So now what do we have? We have a United States Supreme Court 6-3 majority led by Sam Alito, who's in the news right now because he's close to getting censured, if not impeached, for flying not one but two flags in support of Donald Trump and insurrectionists at his home while he's presiding over cases, and hasn't recused himself. That's for another hot take. In fact, I did another hot take. Here I'm talking about the dirty work that he's doing with the others on the majority of the Supreme Court to gut the Voting Rights Act. Now, I was a little surprised because recently they made a decision in which they did find a voting rights map, a congressional map under the Voting Rights Act, to be unconstitutional and racist, and that the only and the sole reason that the redistricting was done there was to disenfranchise black voters. These days, a lot of people are learning about all the benefits of fasting, like weight loss, mental and physical performance, and gut health, but worry about the whole not eating part. Well, that's exactly why Prolon was created. Introducing Prolon, a revolutionary plant-based nutrition program that nourishes the body while making cells believe they're fasting. Researched and developed for decades at the University of Southern California Longevity Institute and backed by leading U.S. medical centers, Prolon helps promote healthy blood sugar, support cardiovascular health, and reduce abdominal fat. But Prolon isn't a diet. Prolon is science. Science based on Nobel Prize-winning discoveries in medicine. And this all starts with Prolon's 5-day program. Snacks, soups, and beverages, all designed to keep your body in a fasting state. It's unlike anything you've ever experienced. Prolon has nutrition plans down to a science. It's convenient, backed by Nobel-winning science, and it works. Being able to tackle my blood sugar levels and cardiovascular health within the same plan is a game changer. I've already been able to feel the Prolon difference after just 1 week. It's no wonder why thousands of doctors now recommend Prolon to support healthy blood sugar and cardiovascular health. Right now, Prolon is offering Legal AF by MeidasTouch listeners 15% off their 5-day nutrition program. Go to prolonlife.com/legalaf. That's prolonlife.com/legalaf for this special offer. That's prolon.com/legalaf. But here in South Carolina, we have a new judicial precedent by Sam Alito. You are to assume that the House of that state is acting in a partisan, not racial way, even against the weight of empirical evidence that was developed at the trial court level. Here we have again the United States Supreme Court, led by the MAGA majority, ignoring the development of the record below at the trial court level, in which witnesses were put on and experts in the area of empirical analysis of voting maps and redistricting maps and racial, and they concluded, the experts that testified, and it was given weight not just by the trial judge, who's a federal judge, but also by a unanimous decision by the South Carolina Federal District Court. Not an easy panel to win about black rights issues in the South, I assure you. But even they, it was as plain as the nose on their face. Even they know racism when they see it and racial gerrymandering when they see it. But not for Sam Alito, not from his perch in Virginia and Long Beach Island vacation home flying flags in favor of Donald Trump. Those maps look fine. 62% of the black voters taken out of District 1 and put in District 6, and the result is that a white lady wins by 14 points. Seems fine to us. Put all the blacks in Clyburn's district, the 6th, Seems fine to us. This is called disenfranchisement of disadvantaged people. But the United States Supreme Court, which is supposed to protect disadvantaged people, make sure their vote counts, is blind. It's not that justice is blind. It's that the Supreme Court majority is blind to racial inequality in America. And it's maddening to me that Chief Justice Roberts, who replaced ultimately, if we're going to have an African-American seat on the United States Supreme Court after Thurgood Marshall passed away, to have Clarence Thomas, right, who goes out of his way to oppose affirmative action in higher education and otherwise, who goes out of his way to put a blindfold on and ignore racial gerrymandering in districts, for him to be, along with Ketanji Brown Jackson now, who appointed by Biden, one of 2 black Supreme Court justices on the United States Supreme Court. And this is what he chooses to spend his time on concurrences like this one that says, oh, it's distasteful for the United States Supreme Court to get involved with political issues. It's not a political issue. It's a racial inequality issue. It's a 14th Amendment issue. It's a civil rights issue. Have you no decency, man? Have you not read the Constitution and the Civil War amendments, the Reconstruction era amendments, and why they were put in place? It's hard to believe. I mean, Abraham Lincoln would be spinning like a rotisserie in his grave if he knew what was going on up here. Fought so hard to make black Americans equal under the law with rights, including voting rights. No more greater right exists than the right to vote in a democracy, and a right to vote in a way where your vote is not diluted or you're not the victim of racial gerrymandering. But to Sam Alito and the others, mainly white, they never see it. They never see it. And they don't care if the state houses of these deep South states controlled by majority white people find ways to argue that it's not racial. I suddenly become foghorn, leghorn, whenever I do this. It is partisan. We just want to strengthen the Republican hold while we have the House. Really? You didn't transfer 62% of Democrats. You transferred 62% of black people from one district to another. And why don't you send the 62% of the black people to another district and give them another black majority district? How about that? That properly reflects the racial composition in South Carolina. And where is Nikki Haley, former governor of South Carolina, who now used to be a critic of Donald Trump? Now she's playing by his rules. I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. Really? It's just maddening. And we have to call it out. We do it right here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. We're the network we're building with our bare hands with your help. No outside investors. We're completely independent. The way you can support us is, let's say, on a hot take like this one from me, Michael Popok, leave a comment, leave a thumbs up. It helps with the algorithmic gods to keep this coming to you uninterrupted. Support our sponsors. They're important as well. I know some people find them maddening, but without them, we wouldn't be on the air. Then you can watch our podcast. We call it Legal AF. After hearing the story about Alitos and all the Alitos and this story, you can understand why we called it and named it Legal AF 4 years ago. It's at the intersection of law and politics. It's every Saturday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time right here on this MeidasTouch YouTube channel. Free subscribe. Help them get to 3 million and listen to us on audio podcast platforms of your choice. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting. Heary, heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know, and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.